That's all, Mr. President. I would like to thank the hardworking sponsor for allowing this representation to propose amendments that will ensure harmonization with Republic Act number 11589 or the Bureau of Fire Protection Modernization Act, which I authored and sponsored during the 18th Congress. With the permission of the good sponsor, I would like to be made co-sponsor and also co-author of the said measure.
Gladly, Mr. President.
Duly noted and entered into the records.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you. Very good.
You do not want to continue because I still have a lot of amendments. You may want to read it.
I think it's okay with me, Mr. President.
Okay.
Nagkakahiya na sa'yo. Baka...
No.
Okay na ako. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So, do
If
I
I may
take it
continue.
that the sponsor has further amendments?
Yes, Mr. President. On page 10, line
The
4.
gentleman may proceed.
On page 10, line 4, after the word confiscation, insert the phrase, and before transferring custody to the AFP. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? There being none, amendment is approved.
On the same page, line 7, after the word council, insert the phrase, and a representative of. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? There being none, amendment is approved.
Still on the same page, Mr. President, lines 7 and 8, line 7 to 8, delete the phrase, and a representative of the OPCW. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? Hearing none, the amendment is approved, subject to style.
Again, on the same page, line 11, delete the phrase, said chemical weapons shall be submitted, and replace it with AFP shall submit samples. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? There being none, amendment is approved.
Still on page 10, line 12, after the word testing, insert the phrase, which shall certify the results thereof. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? There being none, amendment is approved.
On the same page, delete lines 13 to 32. The entire subsections C, D, and E will also be deleted. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? There being none, proposed amendment is approved.
On the same page, on line 13, insert a new subsection C to read as follows. C. After the filing of the criminal case and the submission of the certification, the court shall order the destruction of the chemical weapons in accordance with Section 10 of this Act. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? There being none, amendment is approved.
On page 11, delete the entire subsection F found in lines 1 to 6. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? Chair hears none, amendment is approved.
On the same page, lines 7 to 28 will now become the new Section 10. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? There being none, amendment is approved.
Wala.
What is the pleasure of the minority leader?
An amendment to the new section 10?
The gentleman may proceed.
Was it new section 10?
Yes,
Was
Mr.
that-
President.
If we can add the following departments when enumerating the departments which should be coordinated with for the destruction and disposal of chemical weapons, can we add?
On lines 10 and 11 right now.
Yes, right now, page 11, lines 10 to 11, if we can add the Department of Science and Technology and of course the Department of Health, Mr. President, subject to staff.
What does the sponsor say?
Mr. President, it is also part of my amendment.
We will introduce
Where
that
where-
we will
where
introduce.
will
Yes.
it be found, Mr. President?
same
Oh,
section.
in the same section, Mr. President.
So eksakto lang pala.
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. President, so I have already made the motion anyway, Mr. President. So
Yes.
I so move, Mr. President.
Yeah, we will accept it,
Accept.
Mr. President.
There being no objection to the proposed amendment, the amendment is approved.
And then one observation, Mr. President, for which I would like the sponsor to react. Has the word destruction been amended earlier? Diba? To containment and then disposition amended to disposal. So But I keep on hearing again the word distraction, Mr. President. So may I know let's agree on our protocol on the use of terms, Mr. President.
About destruction yun.
Mr. President, just for the record on the last amendment, that's also my amendment. So we might be able to shorten the process if the gentlemen are Madam Freire will allow me to just also join him in
With the consent of the minority leader.
so the previous amendment, I think that was just approved on the
Yes.
DOH and DOST are also my amendments.
So we make that of record, Mr. President.
Duly noted, and we will await the proposed amendments of Senator Cayetano on the same subject matter, as well as the further amendments of the sponsor.
So I'm just raising this use of the terms, Mr. President, so that we will not get confused in the subsequent amendments from the sponsor, because I noticed the retention of a word already replaced earlier, Mr. President.
Well, on the same, if I may,
Duly noted.
may react, Mr. President.
With
On
the
same
permission of
page-
Senator Pimentel, Chair would like to recognize the sponsor to continue with his proposed amendments.
Well,
Wala.
Senator Estrada may proceed.
yes, as moved earlier, Mr. President, on the same page, line 7 to 28 will now become the new section 10.
Destruction.
Distraction, Mr. President. Distraction. Okay?
Ayan po yan.
Okay na?
Minority Leader?
So to be very clear, Mr. President, it was section 9 is now about containment. We used, and section 10 is about destruction. Okay, but how about the word disposition? Is it now being changed to disposal, Mr.
It
President?
will be section 9, huh? It will be found on section 9, Mr. President.
Correct, but there are also, I think, there are also other sections with the word disposition. So, is it now, are we going to make it now our protocol or our policy that we will now change all the words disposition with disposal, Mr. President?
With our section 9 is now titled
If I may, Mr. President, section 9 is now titled as custody, containment, and disposal of confiscated and seized chemical weapons, Mr. President.
The query, distinguished sponsor, is do we now, or is it the intention of the sponsor to change the word disposition to disposal wherever it may be found in the proposed bill?
Yes, Mr. President.
So I make that motion, Mr.
So can you make that motion?
Yes, an
Minority Leader?
omnibus motion that in the entirety of the bill, that the word disposition will now be replaced with the word disposal.
Disposal.
I so move, Mr. President.
What does the sponsor say?
Accept,
May I,
Mr. President.
for his honor
Yes.
comments, I leave it to the discretion of the sponsor. But destruction and disposition have very distinct meanings. Destructions means sisirain natin, do away with it. Disposition may mean
Disposal,
itago lang.
tapon.
So I want to be sure that the resource persons are ensuring with us that if you remove the word disposition, you will really just be resorting to destruction. I'm not the expert. I'm just pointing it out that there are two different meanings.
Yes, let's not be confused with disposition and distraction. It's disposition and disposal, which we believe is the better word to use. They're synonyms.
So disposition and disposal
Yes.
is what the
Yes.
minority floor leader, but the destruction component
Will
is still
remain.
there.
Yes.
Yes.
Disposition and disposal. Oh, those are more similar.
Section 9 now specifically is about containment, among others, and the Section 10 is about destruction,
Destruction.
among others. But
Yes.
whenever we use disposition, we will now change it into disposal.
Yes.
As a synonym of
Yes,
the
you are
better,
correct, Mr. President.
the better word, the more appropriate word, Mr. President.
No further comments on my end, Mr. President.
So I take it that's not an objection. The proposed amendment having been accepted by the sponsor, there being no objection, the amendment of Senator Pimentel is approved. Senator Estrada?
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, page 11, line 11, after the word resources, insert Department of Science and Technology, DOST, and Department of Health, DOH.
Noted as earlier proposed by the minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, page 11, line 11, after the acronym ATC, insert and OPCW representatives. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection?